Hey friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Esmeralda. If you're not, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. In this video, we're going to cover the copper IUD. We're going to be talking about just my own experience from it. It's not based on any scientific facts, just how I feel about it. I'm 3 months in, so we're going to talk about my insertion, how I felt after the insertion, my first period, my second period, and sex. Also, any other symptoms that I feel like could be related to it, but we'll see. So if that sounds good to you and you want to watch for more, just keep on watching, babies. Let's talk about it. I got my notebook so I stay on track. And P.S. My Instagram friend made this notebook. This is so cute. I'll link it down below. But I just keep all my notes in here, you know. Regular notebook. It's just cute. I love it. And because I go on a lot of side quests in my brain, I like to keep my notebook here so I stay on track for you guys. Okay, let's go. So we're going to talk about my pre-IUD birth control experience. So the year is 2009. I just had my daughter, and I am 17. So that is the first birth control experience that I have. After I got pregnant with my first daughter and had her, I got the Mirena IUD, and that Mirena IUD, it works. I didn't get pregnant, you know, everything was good, but it made my depression so much worse. And it just wasn't a fun experience for me. I have the type of depression where I black out, so there's a lot of things that I don't remember about that time. So it wasn't fun, but it did work, and I kept it in until 2014. When my husband and I got engaged, because I didn't want any more kids. I didn't want no more baby daddies. I wanted a husband, and that's it, okay? Because I was only dealing with one baby daddy and not another. So thankfully, me and my husband, it worked out for us. We had kids. We're still together. So thankfully, so far, just had one baby daddy and one husband, okay? And that's just how I would love to keep it. So with that, I didn't have any birth control until from 2014 until this year of 2024. I didn't have any other birth control. I was going all natural, and you see how that worked for me. I had my 5th child this year of March in 2024. Baby Ezekiel, we love him, but I was done at 4. And then this 5th one came. I was like, look, something got to be done. Something got to be done, and I don't want to be on the Mirena again. I don't want to be on no hormonal birth control. So I was looking into my options, and the copper IUD came up, and I was up in the air because I was this close to getting my tubes tied. But from my research, the symptoms of getting your tubes tied was a little bit worse than the symptoms of the copper IUD. I mean, there's people who got their tubes tied and it's perfectly fine, but the worst case scenarios that I was looking at just wasn't worth it. So I was like, before I go something more permanent, let me try the copper IUD, which I can always take out if it doesn't work. And that's something that me and my midwife were discussing. I was just like, look, I don't know what to do, girl. I just don't want no more kids, okay? And she was just like, look, chill out. Cause she's the calm one, and I'm the one that's all over the place. Kim, love her to death. If you're she just moved, so not Kansas City. So if you're in, I believe it's Utah she was in, look her up. She's amazing. If you want to do a home birth, I love her to death. She did both of my home births, and they were amazing experiences because of her. Painful, yes. Amazing, also yes. I just love her to death. She's family now. But she was like, chill out, shawty, okay? I have some people that have tried the copper IUD. They have good experiences with it, so why don't you try it first, because it's not a permanent option, and if worst case scenario you need to take it out, you can take it out. So I was like, bet, I'll try that. So talk to my doctor, because I did have a midwife and a doctor, and the copper IUD was what we decided on, and so far it's been pretty good. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna touch on the insertion first before I go into detail of like how it's been post insertion 3 months later. I had my copper IUD inserted at 5 weeks postpartum. Usually they like to wait about 6 weeks, but that's just when I could see my doctor. It's just no other reason besides that, besides when I can get in with her, because I really liked my doctor. So that's a whole nother story, but long story short, I had one doctor that I was dealing with for a majority of my pregnancy, and then I changed at like 35 weeks ish to this doctor that inserted my IUD, because a lot of doctors, they don't like that you're doing home births and then coming to see them on the regular. They want you to have the baby at the hospital. But I was just like, nah, I want a home birth, but I just want to be at the hospital just in case I gotta come to the hospital. Y'all have my information. Y'all have my history. That's the only reason why I'm coming to the hospital. But that's, like I said, side quest. Side quest. Okay, side quest. So stick to the story, girl. With the IUD, we talked about it, and I was just like, look, because like I said, I was this close to getting my tubes tied. So I was like, look, I'm scared to go through that procedure first. Let's try the copper IUD. She's like, cool, bet. So I got in with her at 5 weeks postpartum. She did tell me that the insertion might hurt a little bit less than someone who hasn't had a baby or hasn't had a baby recently, because my cervix was technically still a little bit open versus someone who has not had a baby recently or hasn't had a baby whose cervix would be closed. So we did say that, she did let me know that, but she said, you know, just take some ibuprofen before just in case, or Tylenol. I forgot which one it was. But I did I did take some Tylenol before that I went to my appointment, just in case, you know, I didn't want to deal with the pain. I had a newborn. I'm not trying to deal with all that, okay? So I did take some Tylenol about, I would say 15 minutes before my appointment. And then, you know, she comes in, she does all her checks, make sure that I'm good and I'm able to get it. Turned out good. Yay! And then and then they insert the clamps to open you up as if they're going to give you, you know, a vaginal exam. And then she uses like this pinching tool. They have sharp ends, and they pinch your cervix to open it. That part did hurt a bit. I would say from a scale of 1 to 10 that it probably was like a 4. But I feel like I have a little bit of a high pain tolerance, so it would really all depend on your pain tolerance, how much it hurts or doesn't hurt. But it didn't hurt that much. It was just more so uncomfortable. So she pinched my cervix, and I feel like it took forever for her to insert that bitch because I was like, okay, this kind of hurts. Are you gonna insert it now? Can you put it in so you can take these clamps off my cervix? But she inserted. The actual insertion did not hurt. Like I said, the most uncomfortable part was her pinching my cervix. And after that, she unpinched them, took everything out. They gave me a pad. She said I could spot for the next couple of days, and I did. I spotted for about 2 days. As far as any discomfort after the procedure, I did cramp for a couple of days, and I did spot for a couple of days. And I feel like that was more so from her pinching my cervix than her inserting the copper IUD, if that makes sense, because I wasn't really having cramping in my uterus. I was having like I was having discomfort where I was pinched at in my cervix. And she did let me know that, so there's strings that come out of the IUD, the copper strings, and they start off pretty stiff, and it's copper wire. So if you've seen copper wire, it could be pretty stiff. She said that they do start off stiff and they could soften over time. So the first couple times that you have sex, it may be uncomfortable for you and your partner, but like she said, it would soften over time. So insertion now. Well, after that, I had my first period about a month later. The bleeding was pretty heavy. The bleeding was pretty heavy. I mean, on my regular periods before getting pregnant, before the copper IUD, my periods were not heavy. I did not have cramping. My periods lasted anywhere between 4 to 6 days. I don't really have a full 7-day period, but this first period that I had with the copper IUD, it was heavy. You want to talk about the Red Sea? That I was the Red Sea up in there. I had to wear the long super pads, and I was this close to getting some more postpartum diapers for me to wear because it was pretty heavy and it was clotting. But I don't know if it's so much of the copper IUD, because my first period after having a baby is usually heavier. So I feel like with the postpartum period along with the copper IUD, those two mixed together made it pretty heavier than what it was normally would be, if that makes sense. And I was just like, okay, well, let me just see, because if this isn't my only symptom is a heavier period, I will take that over not getting pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, okay, let me see. I did cramp. Like I said, I usually don't cramp before the copper IUD, but with this I did cramp. I was cramping a week before my period, and then I cramped during my period too as well. And with my first period, I did get some hormonal acne right here and right here, which is usually around what I usually just get acne around here, like before I start my period. It was consistent with this first period that I had. And then now moving on to my second period, it was still heavier than my normal flow, but it wasn't as heavy as the first period. So I was like, thank God, it's starting to lighten up. And this period was 4 days versus my first period being a full 7 days. So I went back to like the normal, I would say, length of my period. I was very thankful for that. So the first 2 days, so for my second period, the first 2 days were heavy, and then the 2 days after that were pretty light. I honestly could have gotten away with wearing a panty liner for the last 2 days, but I was worried about like me thinking that it wasn't as heavy, and then it's just boom, gonna be heavy again. But it was lighter nonetheless. I still had cramping the week before and the week of my period with my second period, but like I said, that's something that I'm willing to take over getting pregnant. And I did still get acne right here and right here before my period, and it's doing that again right now because I'm going to be starting my period, I believe, in the next week or so I can kind of see it. That's how my skin is. It's not the copper IUD, it's me and my hormones. With my second period, it did get better, and if it keeps going on track with how it's going so far, it's probably going to get back to my regular period before the year is up. On my research, I did see that people's periods usually take up to a year to get to their normal cycle, but it looks like I'm already headed to my normal cycle, so yeah, on that part. There was a bit of mixed reviews from my research. For some women who experience heavier periods for the whole time that they have the copper IUD, and it could be up to a year as well. Most people took it out before the year was up to see if it would get better. They just couldn't deal with that as a symptom. But then there's other people who said that they left it in past of a year and their periods did go back to normal. So for me, it would be worth the wait to see if my periods would get back normal. If my periods stayed heavy, if my periods stay heavy, I am leaning towards keeping it in. As long as that's the only symptom that I'm facing, I would leave mine in for past a year to see if it gets better, because it's worth not getting pregnant, especially when you have 5 kids like me. Yeah, I can't risk it. I can't risk a 6th, you know, in this economy. I'm already struggling with 5. As far as any other symptoms, I have experienced some nausea here and there, like maybe like 1 or 2 days out of a month. And I'm not sure if it's because of the copper IUD or if it's because my hormones regulating themselves from being pregnant. It honestly could be either or. I'm not going to say it's completely on the copper IUD that I've had nausea here and there. But I will say it might be connected, it might not. And then, like I said, the acne that I get, I don't really feel like that's a copper IUD. I just feel like that's just me. And then cramps. Cramps are from the copper IUD because that's something that I didn't experience before having it. It's something that I really didn't have in my periods before this one. So those are my only symptoms, and so far I'm liking it. I gotta say, I like it.
I love it. I love it more. I love it.
Anything that keeps me from getting pregnant, I'm cool. So the moment that we've all been waiting for, sex. How does sex feel now that I have the copper IUD? So the first couple times, I will say that it was uncomfortable because the wires were stiff. My partner said that he could feel them poking him. They didn't hurt, but they were uncomfortable. And for me, it was uncomfortable because I think more so because I had just had a baby. I mean, we waited about 7 or 8 weeks before we had sex again. I just waited until I felt comfortable. We both waited until I felt comfortable. I was just not ready for sex after 6 weeks. I honestly don't know how the girls do it before 6 weeks. There be people who cannot wait. I'm like, look, I'm waiting. I'm waiting as long as I can, because the traumatic event of having a child unmedicated, nah, I'm good. Keep that D as far away from me as you can. But once I was back in the mood, it was uncomfortable. It didn't hurt. But I would say like after a couple weeks the strings softened up. The doctors did recommend like every couple weeks going up there and making sure that your strings are in line. I still feel them, but they aren't as stiff as they were before. Now he says that he can't really feel it that often unless we're in certain positions. And those positions being where he is, I don't know how to say this for YouTube, where he's deeper. Those are the positions where he tends to feel it because he's at the top. He's at the top of my cervix and he can kind of feel it, you know, being like, hey friend, what's up? So those are the only times that he can feel it, and that's not necessarily the strings that he, I mean, they probably are the strings that he feels, but it's also the tip of the IUD that he can feel. And he said it's not uncomfortable, it's not painful, it's just there, you know. So this and I personally do not feel it at all. So it's just something that the guy experiences, which if that's like I keep saying, if that's your only complaint, deal with it, you know, until he's ready to get snipped, which that is in our future plans for him to, you know, get that taken care of. This is what we're gonna deal with, and that's fine with me, that's fine with him, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so sex is not any different. It's not uncomfortable. Like I said, the only times that he can feel it now that the wires have softened are when I'm in certain positions. So yeah, that's my experience, 3 months of having the copper IUD. I do feel like this is a series that I will keep. So if you have any questions or comments, like leave them down below. If you have experience with the copper IUD, please let us know how it is for you. If it was good or bad or whatever, like leave those comments down below. I think it's good to get all type of perspectives. In my opinion, this is not scientific, but I feel like how your body was before will only intensify while you have the copper IUD. Like for instance, my periods were pretty regular. They were, well, pretty regular to light, so they aren't as probably bad as someone who had very heavy periods before the copper IUD, and it only intensified that once they got it. So I feel like if you have like normal periods, it would intensify that, and it wouldn't be as bad as someone who has, like, if you already have a heavier flow before the copper IUD, then you're gonna have like a way heavier flow after the copper IUD. So in my opinion, Stephanie Harlow, it's my opinion, don't come for me. It would only magnify what you were going through before the copper IUD, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense for people. But because I didn't really have a lot of symptoms before, like my symptoms now are very minimal. So that's just something to think about. That's just my opinion. It's not factual. I have no evidence to back that up. Just me rubbing my brain cells together. But like I said, if you have any experience, please let us know. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Me or somebody else can answer them. And I will keep doing this every 3 months. I thought about doing it monthly, but I feel like that's too close together. So we're going to keep this every 3 months. And I'll keep you girlies updated on how it goes. You know, as long as I'm not pregnant, I can deal with anything else but the pregnancy. So if you like this video, please drop a like and subscribe below. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.